How to, cousins? It's Rusty. I'm in one of the vehicles from the fleet, and today we're going sourcing. We're going to hit a bunch of thrift stores, consignment shops, maybe even an antique store or two. We're going to go in, we're going to try to find a couple things. When we get back out to the vehicle, I'll show them to you, tell you what I paid for them right at that moment and what I expect I'll be able to get for them. And then later on in the video, we're going to talk about a variety of items that you cannot sell on eBay. They're big no-nos. It can get you in a lot of trouble. They can even shut down your store. I'll tell you a couple of personal anecdotes and stories where I learned the hard way. Follow me today. We're going to see some of these cool things I got today. We're going to see some of these things that I have that I cannot sell. And maybe you'll learn something. Let's go. All right, folks, sneak peek number one. I got this beautiful little Celadon small vase here for $1.50. That's great. These little glasses here, they're Ray-Ban. Got those for $1. And then here's a sneak peek of the jewelry I pulled out of this spot. A lot of older costume pieces. As you can see, those earrings actually go with the brooch down in there. We've got some really nice stuff in here. Gonna show you when we get back. We'll lay it all out. And then this fun little puppy, $2.50, but it's cool. SCOCO, it's a high-grade fertilizers, folks. It's manufactured by the Southern Cotton Oil Company in Shelby, North Carolina. And it's just a little old pencil. Here's what it is. If I pull this puppy out, you can see that right there. It's still sharp. Awesome. All right, score number 2 here. Can we get into you here? Come on now. Open her up so that she put them in these little baggies for me. This one's kind of you can't even see that very well. Very bold statement necklace, but it has a sterling silver clasp. These hoop earrings, folks, right here. I don't know if you can see that if I zoom in. Right here on the edge of the hoop, do you see that come to life? It says 14K, 14 karat. Is it really 14 karat gold? I don't know. When we get back, I'm going to do the magnet test first, and I'll do a scratch test. We'll find out for sure. But they were only $2.50, so that's an easy risk. And then look at this. I've got some Signer, some Givenchy, nice brands. Everything here, $27. Well, here they all are, folks. We're laid them all out here. Some others over here. We're going to start with these. Anytime you can find, primarily I sell Nike shoes if I'm going to be selling shoes, but lately I've had some success with some older Converse All-Stars. These are some Chuck Taylor Converse. They're size 8. They're in pretty doggone good condition. I paid $4.99 for these. I'm not going to make a hoard of money off of them. Maybe, $20 to $30. You can see there's some kind of condition issues on the edge a little bit, but these are a particular style. People like these vintage shoes. I'll probably, like I said, make $30, sell them for $30, something, make $20 profit, something like that. I always look in bins for glasses and sunglasses when I'm at thrift stores and things, because a lot of times you can buy them for $1 a piece or less, $2 at the most. And this is just a pair of reading glasses, but it is, I don't know if you can see right through here, it is a Ray-Ban. And, those are popular. That's a popular brand of glasses and sunglasses. These are in good condition. The lenses are not scratched. So somebody's going to be interested. I just have to make sure I use those numbers, because that, I think, corresponds to the way that the lenses are made. And so people have certain prescriptions for their glasses to see well for whatever their eyes require. And so anyhow, $1, that's going to be an easy flip, I think. I don't know how fast it'll go, but it should be okay. And I showed you this in the vehicle right when I got it. SCOCO. vintage ink pens and pencils actually can sell quite well, and I like them too because a lot of times people will bag them up in lots and they'll sell them for like $4 or something for like 30 or 40 different things, and man, you can make some really great money. I mean, even if you just sold them for $1 a piece, you make money off of that. But specifically ones that have old advertising, maybe from a company that no longer exists, maybe it's from a very small rural community. People collect things from their hometowns or things a lot of times, and then just old advertising things. Also be aware that old ink pens can sometimes, and even pencils honestly, can sometimes have gold, can be made of gold or silver in certain components like fountain pens. The tips sometimes are gold filled. Sometimes you'll get pens that are silver, especially from like the late 1800s, early 1900s. So keep that in mind. That does it on stuff that's not jewelry. We had a really good time finding some decent jewelry stuff today, so let me get into that. Starting off, I've put this on this little display portion here. This is just a costume necklace, but it's quite a statement piece. This is the kind of thing that if you had a fancy wedding to go to, or you're going to go out dancing or something, this style is pretty common. You'll see them a lot of times, these clear rhinestones. The back of it you can see is just kind of that flat metal sort of, you know, kind of, there's a ton of these out there. Always make sure you're looking to see if all of the stones are intact. In this case, they are. The thing that was also interesting about this is that this latch, this clasp back here, has broken at one point in time, and somebody replaced it with a sterling silver claw clasp. So even though the necklace itself is not made of silver, this little clasp is made of silver, and I can put that in the title, which is nice. But this is it's an attractive piece. This cost me $3, and I think that I can get probably $15 to $20 at the least off of this, especially if I give it some time and sort of wait. Down in here we have some interesting brooches. This one right here has kind of that Aurora Borealis color here with the rhinestones set into this sort of like long leaf motif. And if you flip this stinker over and you take a look at it, this is where you get most of your information, you'll find that there is not a maker mark on it. Doesn't mean that's a bad piece of jewelry. It is somewhat attractive, and honestly the reason I got it was because of the combination of the brushed gold tone and this the Aurora kind of pattern here, or color scheme with the rhinestones. There are people who collect stuff just with those colors, so be aware of that. Here's one that's fairly simple. I mean, it's gold color, gold tone. It's a heart that's kind of opened up a little bit. Flipping it over, and you'll look in here and you can see that there is a brand here. It's Monet. Monet, pretty common. I would say some of the most common costume jewelry brands I come across, and by common I mean pretty much every time I go out and look at costume jewelry, I'm going to see a Monet, a Napier, and Sarah Coventry, and Avon. Avon, Sarah Coventry, Monet, and Napier are the four most common ones I personally come across. It doesn't mean they're not worth getting, but I'm actually always hoping that I'm going to find something other than those, because clearly they've manufactured a ton. If they're just everywhere all the time, then I'd rather get ones that are more boutique or harder to come across. Here's another brooch that's kind of a rose. You've got kind of the lines here for the leaf. That's kind of attractive. And then this textured, it's like a rose or some sort of a flower. You flip it over, it's very smooth on the back. And there are there's nothing even on the pin part here. And nothing on the little clasps. So no maker mark. I don't know who made this, so I'm going to have to Google Lens it and see if I can't find who might have made it. This is cool. Horseshoe. This is a little bit older of one. That was a popular sort of symbol to make jewelry out of, was a horseshoe. I think in some circles that stood for good luck. And again, no indication of gold or anything like that. Just an attractive piece. Here we have quite a nice looking piece, and I suspect this is made by a better manufacturer, though I don't know for sure yet. Really attractive faux pearl on the top. It's like the top of a flower just sort of bursting open there, brushed gold tone. And you flip it over, again, no maker's marks. I bought a lot of stuff that was unmarked today, but I think I'll still do okay with it. We were paying $2 basically a piece for this jewelry, and so I'm pretty sure I can always flip that. You'll notice the way that this is made from the side. You've got prongs that are holding this faux pearl, which I'm sure was both glued and most likely there's a post up in the center of it holding it in place. It's put into this piece, and then this piece on top, it's like a layer. It's a separate item that with these little posts, you can see right there by my thumbnail, is more open, and then right here those were soldered into place, so that top part was almost like a second piece stuck in there. Those posts came through the holes that were made for it, and then they soldered them into place, as well as right here in the middle. I think it's nice. It's more of a complicated piece. It would have taken more money and effort to produce that, and therefore I imagine I'll be able to get a little bit more money for it. Another one of these Aurora Borealis style ones, you can see the one down here was kind of more blues and pinks. This is more in the red, purplish, pinkish, blue, you know, a little bit of blues there, but it's just a regular flower. We've got a couple of more, you got the round stones, and then you've got sort of these different colored, they're not exactly baguettes because they're not rectangular, but you know, they're similar to that. And then on the back, no maker, but we have these rivets, and the rivet, the use of the rivet to connect these little pieces to the piece of jewelry was a particular practice during a certain time period. I'm almost certain whenever I see these that they're manufactured at an older time. This is definitely a vintage piece. All of the stones intact, so that will help me sell it pretty well. I'm going to keep going through these brooches. I'm almost finished with the brooches today. Another just sort of gold tone brushed look, but when you flip it over, I notice here on the bottom right that there's a brand, and that brand is Don Lin, DON-LIN, and you know, that's definitely a maker of costume jewelry that can sometimes command a little bit higher values than, say, some of those other brands that I mentioned earlier. And so when I get ones that are marked by more boutique brands or ones that produced smaller quantities of jewelry, I get more excited to get that stuff. This is a really unique piece that I like. It's just a moon, and it's set up with this little, like a cherub or something, and he's swinging on a little swing. So you got this little chain, and I like it. It would be made to be pinned this way, not necessarily, because you can see how it's made for him to hold. So the moon sideways, that crescent moon, that was a style that was very popular actually in the teens in early 1900s. This is not that old, but this is called, I believe it's either, I think it's Dane Craft. It's either D-O-N-E or D-A-N-E Craft. And these, you know, they're selling for the $20 to $30 range. I would say that most of these pieces I could probably sell for $12 to $14. That's like the bottom, and it goes on up from there for these costume pieces here. Then we've got a cool little set, or a partial set here. We have a brooch and then clip-on earrings. So on the back of the brooch, again, that rivet design. And when I see this, I've seen these before, and I was already thinking, okay, this looks kind of like something like maybe Coro or something like that. In a different spot in the store, actually, I found these clip-on earrings, and they clearly go together. It's made as a set. They had been separated, and then on the back of that, you can see it is Coro. So definitely enhances my ability to make a better price, given the fact that I have a matching set here, brooch and earrings. They are attractive, and they also have all the stones intact. Good condition. Was happy about that. When I saw this and I felt of the weight and I felt it in my hand, I thought, man, I really hope that this is sterling silver because it's quite heavy. What I do with these bracelets, you know, you gotta search in the center, and you rotate and you rotate, and you're looking for a maker's mark. Now, half the time you're not going to find anything, and then sometimes you do. And so I was being very patient, trying to like roll through. I get to this section, and I can see right there is where it was kind of welded together, or soldered rather. Welding would be for something more significant. But as I continue to rotate, you'll see let's see if I can zoom in here for you. So right there, do you see it right there in the center? It's upside down, but it says Monet. So this is a Monet brand bracelet. I'm glad it is not sterling silver, but it is a brand that is well known, well collected, and it is marked. So that really helps me out. I also came away with 2 or 3 necklaces today. This one is interesting. Got this setup here where it's this kind of gold tone metal base. And then you have, these are essentially like plastic. They had been poured into a mold and made into these shapes. You've got these little blue rhinestones glued onto the top, and then these are adhered to basically push the post through and then melted the ends of them to spread out, and when they cooled, now they're stuck into place. I don't see that very often. A lot of times what I'll see more often with it looks like this would actually be a piece of metal where what the flower would be made out of is metal, and then it's painted with an enamel paint of a particular color. I find that way more often than this plastic, and I don't really know. You also look here at this section, it's like kind of this brass rings, and then that same blue plastic rings in between. It gives it an interesting, different look. It's set up so that you can hook this hook onto here. I always look at these hooks to see, is there any sort of maker mark or name on that? And there wasn't, unfortunately, so I don't know. I need to do some Google Lens work, do a little bit of research. My guess is that this is something that was made probably in Japan, or it was Hong Kong. I think this is probably one of those pieces that was made to look like more prominent and successful costume jewelry makers of the day, and this was made in the Asian market. I don't know that for sure, but that would be my best guess. And then we have this little necklace that has this interesting pendant at the bottom that kind of rotates back and forth. You know, it can kind of dangle like that. Dangle, dangle. And then these pieces. So actually, let me pull this down so you can see the way that it's made to hang intentionally. Hang right there. Okay, so can I get this other piece? Doggone it. Okay, is that right? Yeah, good. Okay, let's layer down, and this is it. So it's an attractive piece, I think, because it's got these cool lines. You've got the black, the gold, and then you got that splash of color with the round part. So I'm always, when there's pendants, I'm always turning the pendants over, because a lot of times, if there's a maker mark, it would be on the pendant. And alternatively, if it's not on the pendant, as you know, look up here at the clasp. It's got a very attractive, one of these kind of like round barrel type clasps, but it also has a hang tag, and on the hang tag almost always there's a maker. And here it is. It says Mark with a C, Mark by Marc Jacobs. So this is a Marc Jacobs brand necklace, paid $2 for it. And these are going to, again, go in the 14 on to up to maybe 20, maybe even more than $20. But I'm just going by the general sale price of Marc Jacobs costume jewelry. Some, of course, are much higher than that. I'm just looking at the average. And then sliding over here, we've got another interesting necklace here, kind of this coiled type of a chain, and then this pretty interesting sort of throwback look. Almost looks like a cameo, but that kind of looks like almost like a Roman or a Greek figure profile to the side. It's just this it's like a resin over something that looks kind of blue, like a blue enamel, with a little rhinestone glued in there. You flip it over, it's got all that texture on the back. I'm not seeing what it is. So then we go to the clasp again. Same situation. We got, this time, kind of the claw clasp, a hang tag, and that says Robert Rose. Not one I see all that often. So both of these, seeing the Marc Jacobs and the Robert Rose in the same place, I was kind of excited. These are a little bit higher end, I would say, than like a Monet or something. You're going to find them less often. So definitely I won't have a problem selling those when I've only invested $2 a piece. Now we're on to earrings. Here's an interesting little pair of earrings. You can see these, it's kind of a, it's not exactly Aurora Borealis. It's got a different kind of look. I'm trying to think of that look. There's a particular type of steel that looks like that, and that may be what this is. They may be metal, although I don't think they are. Got some faux pearls, and to be quite honest, they are not even close to looking real. But you flip it over, you got this kind of brass look, a little ornate floral sort of, not exactly floral, but kind of. And then if you look really close on there, there's an imprint, and it was a poor stamp, but it says Japan on it. So this was, again, one of those ones made in Japan. A lot of times when I see ones that have sort of the beadwork like this, these round ones, sometimes they're clear, sometimes they're colored, sometimes they're Aurora Borealis, and sometimes they look like this, but they're made in Japan. You see Japan, you see Hong Kong. These were made during a certain period, I believe like in the 50s and 60s. These were coming out, maybe even later than that. And then again, some more of this Aurora Borealis, and then almost like a smoky topaz kind of look at the bottom here, and some of these little blue jelly type stones. They're actually plastic, but rhinestones. You pop her up, you're going to see this, these little rivets again. And then if you look real close underneath the bottom there, you'll see the word pinned. And so this is one of those ones that's marked patent pending, and that patent applies to this particular clasp. And they were required to do that. This looks like those Coro pieces from before. I'm not 100% because multiple manufacturers utilized the rivets, but I think those are nice. I could sell them on their own with no problem. Moving over to the two really nice pairs, and you know what, folks? These two pairs alone, in fact, one of these pairs, if it sells for what I think it will pay for the entire lot of stuff that I got here, okay? This right here is an interesting look. It's got kind of curved. They are clip-on earrings. They've got 5 or 6 different stones, clear ones, red, green, and blue. And then when you flip over and you look, oh, look at, there it is. There's the maker. It's Signer. Signer is a pretty high-end, medium to high-end brand. They're not high-end like Carnegie or Haskell or any of those, but it's still pretty high, widely collectible. I looked up similar ones like this that have sold on eBay in the last 90 days, and we're looking at right around $150 is what I think I'll get for these if I sell them individually. The same is true for these. These are what they would call like almost like a door knocker style. I thought at first they would be called hoop, but when I did some research, they call them like door knocker, and that makes total sense. It looks like a door knocker. Again, you've got sort of the same idea. You've got clear stones to accent around these other colored stones, blue swirl, green swirl, and the faux pearl in the center. It's kind of an attractive, high-end looking piece. On the back, again, of these clip earrings, you'll see a brand, Givenchy, Paris, New York. Givenchy, I think is how it's pronounced. And I looked these up. These are from like the 1980s. They're in great condition. They've got all of their stones. Again, we're looking at $150 probably. Might even get more. And so between these two pairs by themselves, because of the brands, because of the attractability, and because I've done research and saw already what they sell for, this is like $300. Now, I paid about $117 for everything that you're looking at right here, $117, and I haven't even got to these yet. Well, okay, I guess I'll get into these. You can see, I'm going to lay these out. I'm going to do these separately in a moment. I'm going to do these. So this earring here, kind of a gold tone. You can see it's simple. It looks like 3 adjoining hoops with little rhinestones with set in a bezel on each of them. Looks significant. I spent some good time. I looked all around the back. I looked up by the little post here. No marks. No marks for gold. No marks for a manufacturer. That's a bummer, but I still took a chance on them for $2 because I thought, you know what, I can sell these for $2. I'll get my money back. They might be made out of gold or gold filled, and I could get a little bit more. You see this little bump right here? That little bump is not directly below where the stone is. It's actually off to the side, and that is, that's a problem that occurred, probably a bubble underneath when they plated this. So this may be gold plated, or at least plated with a different kind of gold colored metal. That was like an error in the manufacturer, or the alloy underneath maybe got a little oxygen or a little water in it, and it has degraded a little bit underneath of that. But no one will really notice because that's on the side of your head, not on the outside, so no one would care. But they are an attractive piece. I did test them. They are not made of gold, unfortunately. I'm going to go to these next. Now, I was excited when I saw these. not because of how they look. I come across ones like this fairly regularly. We've got some sort of like a very basic etched design around this teardrop hoop. And they're not fully hollow because they're a little bit heavy. A lot of times these will be very lightweight because they're very thin metal and they're hollow. But up here at the top, as you'll see, it says 14K. I got excited because I thought, well, maybe this thrift store just missed this. This was $2.50 for these. I knew that if these came out to actually be made of gold, that they would be worth $200 to $300, most likely. And then that would pay for everything else I had in this lot. But here's the sad news, folks. I came back. I used my magnet at first. It was not magnetic. That's a good sign. Gold is not supposed to be magnetic. But then, of course, I needed to do my scratch test. And you know what happened when I did it? Well, as soon as I did it, it immediately ate it away, which means these are not gold. They're not even gold filled, I don't believe. Just an attractive pair of earrings. I'll still be able to sell them, make my money back, and make a little bit of profit. But this is the second time in a week that I have bought things that were marked to 14K that when I did the test ended up not being 14K. So please, please, please do your test. Do not just go with what is marked on here. One was a golden colored necklace. Would have been worth about $2,000 if it had been gold. It was not. In both cases, I only spent a little bit of money, so it wasn't the big heartache. But, you know, it is a bummer. You're always looking for those big scores. The last one here, folks, and this will also sell for good money, I paid $20 a piece for these. So this was the big expense, $20 for this and $20 for these. Why did I spend that much? Well, they're a beautiful, attractive, this is a teardrop kind of mother of pearl. It's really nice. As if you turn, it almost gets completely cloudy, and then as you go this way, really beautiful. The reason I bought it, folks, is that the top here that holds on to the necklace, this would be a pendant, it is marked, and I have tested it. It is, in fact, 14 karat gold, the same as these hoop earrings. They're mother of pearl. They're quite attractive. And these posts here and these fasteners are 14 karat gold. They'll go as a pair. So I paid, $40 for these. And these will probably sell for the you know, if I want to sell them quick, $100. If I want to get my most out of them, maybe as much as $175. And then something in between is most likely what I'll get. But again, I paid $40 for these. Let's just say I sell them for $120 and I make $80 profit. That's 70% of what I've paid for everything. And I do think I'm going to sell these. I don't know how fast I'll sell them, but I will sell them on this. So these two pairs and this are really going to get me into the profit. And then I can just sit back and let this stuff sell over time and not have to sweat about it. My money is back to me. I can get moving on with the next, you know, deals out there. And this is how you slowly build a store. I didn't get thousands of items in my eBay stores overnight. It was buying lots. It was getting my investment back quickly so I could expand my business and grow, and then rely on these things to sell over time, little by little. And that's really our bread and butter. Folks, if you haven't had a chance yet, please go check out the other channel that someone in the warehouse started just this last week. The channel is called What Sold. This is my younger brother and another cousin of mine, and they're doing a great job. If you want to see videos on just the things that we have sold, and that's really it, no fluff, just this is the item, this is what we paid, this is what we sold it for, and maybe this is where you can find it or what to look for. Check that channel out. Go ahead and take a look at that link up there if you get a moment. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. All right, it's about time to get into items that you should not sell on eBay, but I wanted to just show you. I pulled these out because they're about to sell. They'll sell later today. They've already got bids. They both got bids for about $25 per, and I imagine they'll go a little bit higher. But this is like a brooch with chunky pieces of amber in it. Kind of an older one. Really cool. That's selling off one of our eBay stores. And then we got this right here. This is like a key. It's like a key brooch, essentially. And if you turn it over like this, hold on a second. If I zoom in, if you get over here, oh, where is that? I gotta find it. Shoot. Oh, my goodness. I found it. Sorry about that. It is, the brand is Ben Amun. And that's not one I come across all that often, but it's fairly attractive. It's got a cool look to it. So that's going out. All right, without further ado, what should you not sell on eBay and why? Let me tell you a quick tale of an issue that happened to old Rusty that caused a lot of problems and cost me some money along the way. The item I'm about to show you that is prohibited from being sold on eBay is ivory. Ivory comes from the tusk of elephants, and much like the American bison, whenever a person decided there was something from this animal that they wanted, they began to harvest it without mercy. And they harvested and harvested, and if left to their own devices, they would have done it until that animal was extinct. With the American bison, it was a complete all-out slaughter. It got to where people just hunted them just to shoot them, not to do anything with them. They would put rifles on train cars, and people would shoot them just traveling across the plains, just because it was fun. It's horrible, folks. They decimated the population. And the same is true of elephants. It got to the point where it depleted the population so much. Now, the tusk is not exactly bone. It's something a little bit different. In fact, if you examine bone from animals and ivory, they grow and they form in a different way. And there's a specific way you can tell, which I'll talk about in a moment. But last year, in one of my eBay stores, I put on a little item, which I'm going to show you in a moment, called, I believe the pronunciation is Netski, although I might be incorrect on that. If I am, please correct me gently. But it's a particular item that's typically a carved figure, and the original items that these were carved out of was typically ivory. You may or may not be aware, but it is illegal to sell ivory. The reason they made that illegal is because they wanted to decrease the amount of harvesting of elephant tusk. That was one of the ways they were trying to help keep that from happening. And so it is illegal to sell that on eBay, among other items that eBay has specific policies against. I put up an item that is one of these carved figures. The way that there's several ways that you can tell that it is this type of figure, which I'll elaborate on in a moment. But suffice it to say, I had one of these. However, my item was not made of ivory. It was made of resin. Resin is a type of chemical compound that you can pour in a liquid form into a mold and create something that hardens. Not unlike a very hard glue, although this is different than just glue. So this was a resin. It was poured into a mold to look like an Asian figure, and then it was carved afterwards a little bit more and then hand painted. There is nothing wrong with this item. Resin is not illegal to sell. It's not illegal to create. And in my opinion, to have the same type of item, this is a great alternative. Anyhow, I had one of these, and I put it up to try to sell it on eBay. I put it up for auction for $20. So not a lot of money, folks. I sell items for hundreds and thousands of dollars all the time. So $20, not a lot of money for my store. Within 48 hours, this item had been taken down from eBay. Now, what I failed to mention was that I did not have one, but I had two separate items, similar items, resin items. I put them up on the same day, same time, both for $20 an auction. The first one was removed. I got an email from eBay saying, "You have violated the animal products policy of eBay. Please do not relist this item. You are not allowed to sell ivory." I didn't think anything of it. At first I thought, well, they're incorrect. It's not ivory. But message received. I will not relist this. I'll just sell it locally, maybe in an antique store that I sell at or something like that. Later that same day, they took down my other item because they took down another item that they also thought was ivory, also what they thought was violating the same policy. They, without my knowing, without indicating, without contacting me, without giving me any time to discuss it with them or to make any changes to my store, they viewed me as someone who was going to continue violating their policies, even though this was not something I listed afterwards. It was something that had already been listed. They put some heavy restrictions on my account. The next day, I went in to do something that I do regularly, which is delist items from my store and relist the items. I don't actually hit the relist button. I actually click the sell similar button to give it a new item number, as if it is a fresh new item that has never been listed before. When I went to do that, I discovered that I was unable to relist pretty much all of my 200 items that I had delisted. So all of a sudden I pulled 200 items out. I went to relist them, I couldn't. So I get on the phone with eBay customer support to try to figure out what was going on. They look into my account and they inform me that they have put some significant restrictions on my account. What are those restrictions? Well, I am no longer able, apparently, to list items with the following words in the title or anywhere in the description. Those would be the words antique, the word vintage, the word old, the word bone, the word ivory, the word carved, the word animal, and the list goes on. Basically, any word that I had used in those two listings in the title or in the description, they put a restriction on my account, not allowing me to use those words anymore. Now, let me put this into perspective for you. Old Rusty sells 95+% of his inventory in the categories of antiques and collectibles. So every single item I want to list from now on, I can't use any of those words to describe my item. That's a major problem, folks, because I know that the people searching for the items I'm selling are using those words in their searches. I want them to search for the item and use those words. I want to use those words in my description so that they will find my item and hopefully buy it. This person further tells me that this type of restriction is not a restriction that will drop off in a week, a month, a year. No, folks, this is a restriction that, according to this individual, is a lifetime restriction. So all of these items I'm apparently not able to relist unless I significantly change the way that I describe them. What's more is that every other item, and we're talking thousands of items in my store, when those term out after their 30 days of being listed and it's time to relist those, I won't be able to relist those either. So what this restriction did was it significantly inhibited my ability to sell on this eBay store the items I have. So overnight, I had to find a way to completely change what's happening. I talked with a manager. I spent a week discussing this with people to no avail. They did not hear my explanations. They did not actually even follow their own policies, which are to contact me, give me a certain amount of time, discuss it with them, make adjustments. No. They just basically shut me down. They didn't close my store to where I couldn't operate, but they put restrictions that were so severe, so strict, that I was unable to carry on my business, okay? And so the reason for this video is I don't want you folks having to go through something like this. If I had known this was going to happen, do you think old Rusty would have tried to sell an item for $20? Was getting $20 off that item worth this? Absolutely not, folks. Absolutely not. Now, the only way I was able to make adjustments, now this added a lot of extra time, a lot of extra stress and difficulty for me, and extra work. It took time away from my normal business practices in order to shift things. And what I did was, because I have multiple eBay stores, I had to delist everything from that store. I had to go find everything from that store in my inventory, and I had to re-photograph it, make new listings, and relist it in my other store. We're talking thousands of items, folks, and I'm only one guy. Sure, I have a warehouse of folks helping me out, but most people who are watching this channel are not going to have that luxury. And it was a luxury, but it was also still a lot of effort and heartache and time for people, right? So luckily, I had this other store. This is a cautionary tale for you. You need to know that there are specific items that there are policies against, and it is not worth the risk, folks. And in my case, I wasn't even actually trying to sell something that was illegal. I knew very well that I couldn't sell ivory. I have carved figurines like this that are made of ivory that I have accumulated over time, and knew that I could not sell them on eBay when I got them. All right? So please take this tale and apply it. Be very careful, because you don't want this to affect your store in the way that it has mine. I have recovered from that. I've got everything in this other store now, but I always operate with more than one eBay store at a time for this very reason. In case some sort of heavy restriction hits me, either out of their a mistake by eBay, or if I have made a mistake. I've heard of other people who have made similar had similar issues happen, and it completely shut their store down. One individual I know was selling just little rock and mineral specimens, just little tiny rocks, 1 gram, 2 grams, and on up. And his store, unbeknownst to him, got dinged one day, and they shut his store down because they said that one of the types of minerals that he was trying to sell apparently can give off infinitesimal degrees of radioactivity. He didn't even know. He contacted them and said, "I'm so sorry, I was not aware. I will take everything down in here. I will never sell it again. This was a mistake. I wasn't trying to pull anything past you." And they said, "Well, too bad. It could cause a health concern for people buying it. You're done." So know what you're selling. Be making sure that you're checking out and reading all of the policies to the letter so that this doesn't happen to you. Now, let's look at a few of these items so you can see what I'm talking about. What do all of these items have in common, folks? Why, they're things you can't sell on eBay. Starting us off here, these are what I was talking about. These are called Netsuki or Netsuki. These are these little carved figurines, and these two that I'm showing you right here are made out of ivory. Now, if you look real closely on this, do you see these little striations? It looks like not really much here, but as I rotate it, you're going to start to see, it looks like a hatch pattern, lines in a crisscross zigzag design. That is not created that way. It's not created that way by a man. This is how it actually forms when it's growing. And so that is how you can tell that something is ivory. Resin is going to be a uniform color with no striations, no patterns. And bone is also not going to have this kind of pattern. It's going to have more straight lines and sometimes little holes that pop up, and you can see that there, there's kind of some tubes almost that run down through the inside of it. And here's another good example. You can see that little striation there, and actually what you're looking at right there is a signature. It's carved and it's painted in the little red right there. Signature person who carved this. These little holes here, you would thread a piece of string or rope through that, and these are, I believe, Japanese originally. And you can tell it is an Asian sort of scene of a man sitting in what looks like a little boat almost. It's very cool and neat design. These were made, you would tie a string to this. Individuals who wore like a kimono or a robe or something, they would have a belt and oftentimes didn't have pockets. But what do you do if you have an outfit on with no pockets and you need to carry something? Well, they would take a string and they would tie it to a little pouch to carry the contents that they need to take with them, almost like a little purse or a wallet. On the other end of that, they needed something to counterbalance that as that rope hung over the belt. And so they would put one of these figures or a carved piece like this, and that's what those holes are for. So if you ever see a carved figurine and you come across one that has holes like this, it was the intended purpose of this. Again, you've got a signature carved down here of someone. This is like a fish. You got the holes, that's what it hangs, and then you got these two men with like a rope holding on. These are very fascinating, very cool. The art like the artistic nature of these, the design, the craftsmanship is really incredible. It's just unfortunate that people, you know, harvested these, and they did in such a way that it was really, really bad for the animal, and I hate that. They're very cool. There are some places, collectors, you can buy these sometimes at like auction houses or estate sales, but you cannot legally sell them on eBay. And as I've just told you, if you even try to sell something close to it, you can still get dinged. So please, please, please be careful. A couple of years back, there was a publisher or a company that makes books that decided that there were a handful of Dr. Seuss books which they believed in the course of the material it was depicting certain people groups, certain nationalities, or certain races in a negative light, and that was not fair. And they decided that they were no longer going to produce those books and put them out for sale. That very quickly caught wind, or kind of took fire, took off with social media and various things, and a variety of other companies decided, yeah, us too. We're also not going to sell them. And then lots of other bookstores and other places said, we're not going to sell them either. And then very quickly, eBay jumped on and said, we're going to outlaw the sale of these books as well. I can't remember if it's 7 of them or 8 of them, but this is one of them. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, it's a Dr. Seuss book. And somewhere in the course of this, I don't actually know what it is in each of the books that is so distasteful. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying I don't actually know. All I know is that there are certain ones that are quote unquote banned. And if you attempt to sell this, it's very likely that your item will be taken down and they'll say, do not sell this. You can't sell this book. And there are other books as well. There is a policy on certain books that you can and cannot sell. Some of these Dr. Seuss books are on that list, so make sure you take a look at the list of specific books before you try to go sell one. The tobacco category is another one of those where you are unable to sell certain items. Right here, what you're seeing is a 1920s, 1930s cigar box. And some of these tubes are empty. They have been opened and the cigar removed and smoked, most likely. But then you've got a handful of these which are untouched. They were rolled. They have a cork sort of filter there, as you can see, wrapped around. And then it's corked with this. So it's sealed. It has not been opened or used since the 1920s. But you are unable to sell actual tobacco items, things that actually contain tobacco. Here's a little old leather pouch. Inside you see a open and partially used pack of Lucky Strike cigarettes. And you can see there's like looks to be like a Native American, profile of an individual there. And the actual cigarettes, some of them are still in here. Oh man, they look nasty. Now, there are collectors out there who like this kind of thing. However, you cannot sell them on eBay. What I could sell would be if I removed all of the cigarettes out of this and sold it as an empty packet, it's possible I could sell that. If I wanted to sell this box with these empty tubes, I could probably do that, but I cannot sell the actual tobacco. I recently tried to list a lot of tins that used to contain tobacco. They were all empty. But because I did not make it clear enough that they were empty, and because I did not have a great photo showing them open and empty, eBay took it down and said, you cannot sell this. And so I had to take it down. I made adjustments. I relisted it, and it has since stayed up. But it just goes to show you need to be very careful with your wording and your titles. And if you are allowed to sell a certain type of item, you need to make sure you know what parameters and what things you got to put in there so that you don't get dinged. Tobacco and alcohol are kind of in the same realm. I don't have a bottle up here, but I've got several bottles. Actually, you know what? Here's a good example right here. Four Roses. It's a bourbon, and this bottle by itself, empty, I could sell it. But if there was any of the original juice left in here, folks, that's a no-no. You can't do it. There are very heavy restrictions legally on the sale and the resale of tobacco and alcohol, and that's why eBay just doesn't allow it. Knives. there's all kinds of different knives that you can sell on eBay. Pocket knives, even straight edge knives, knives with double blades, serrated blades, doesn't really matter. However, there is one type of restriction, and that would be what they call automatic knives. This is what is commonly referred to as like a switchblade. It has a mechanism in here with a spring that allows you to close it and open it with either a push button or a slide button, as this one. This is not allowed to be sold on eBay. However, there's another type of designer knife which are called assisted knives. And that means that there is a mechanism in here that assists you in opening it, but it is not the same mechanism as this. And therefore, and what I'm talking about here is, if this were not assisted, it would, I'd have to put my strength in it to do it open. But watch, as I just I can just very easily click that open. All right. This knife, I'm all good. I can sell this all day long. It's very easy to sell. Knives sell very well. But you have to know that certain types of knives, automatic knives, are prohibited, along with other types of weapons, which I think are interesting. You can't sell brass knuckles. You can't sell nightsticks, which are like retractable steel, oftentimes little, I don't know, they're hollow inside, but they retract and they come out. You've probably seen them in the military in some countries. Some people will use those as a weapon. You can't sell those. Keep that in mind. You will definitely get that pulled down, and your account will get flagged if you try. Check out this Rolex, folks. Oh my goodness. Whew. A little Oyster Perpetual. Yeah, but the problem is it's fake. It's not real at all, folks. It's got its own box. It's even got its own little tag here. Oh, Rolex. Oyster Swim-Proof PRUF. It must be real. I have just lucked into a multi-$1,000 watch, haven't I? Well, no, I haven't. And I know that I haven't. It goes without saying, folks, that you can't sell something and pretending that it's real if you know that it isn't. That's deceitful. It's just false. It's a bad business practice. Don't do it. But I'll tell you that I can't even sell this even on eBay, even if I want to say that it's fake. This is not a real Rolex. You can't sell this even as a fake. And so I'm in trouble. So know that there are certain items that if it is a replica or if it is made with the intention of fooling the purchaser, eBay prohibits that. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some categories where there are specific guidelines for the things you write in the title and the description. In some cases, you can say that a thing is a replica. For example, if you have like a car that's like a 1/24th size, ratio size, made like it's a replica of the actual thing. It's obvious. No one's stepping into a little car that's the size of my shoe, right? You can do replicas of airplanes, replicas of, there's replicas of all kinds of stuff out there, right? But I can't say the word Rolex and say, even in the title, all caps, "This is a fake!" Exclamation point, exclamation point. They still don't let you do it, folks. So please take a look at the guidelines that surround these types of items that were made to look like the original but aren't. Because sometimes you can get away with it, but I would not advise it. You're just going to have to find another way to sell that kind of thing, just like I am. There are policies against selling certain items, and it could be a variety of different types of items, but the general idea is that it is not unlike the books that are not allowed to be sold. If it is degrading in some way, or if it is perpetuating negative stereotypes against a certain people group, they are prohibited. What I have here is a couple examples of things that are pretty insensitive, or on the spectrum of insensitive all the way up to blatantly racist. Okay, here we have what they call the mammy dinner bell, which just kind of makes my skin crawl. There are people out there, folks, who still like this stuff, who still collect this stuff. They would put it in what they would call the Black Americana categories. I think that it goes without saying that these are insensitive at the very least. However, Was there a period of time where African American people were enslaved and picking cotton for someone else for no pay? Yes, that did happen. It's a fact. But I think the problem that eBay has is that people are trying to profit off of these images or off of these ideas, and in some ways they don't know the intention of the seller, but they don't want to be perpetuating these negative ideas, and I don't blame them, folks. And so, is it possible that these items could be sold technically on eBay? Well, if you put them in a particular category and you were very cautious about your wording, or you didn't highlight certain things, it's possible you could get away with it. But I'm here to tell you, number one, let's not perpetuate these negative stereotypes. And number two, it's not worth the risk. Remember my story a minute ago, for $20, $10, $5 on a postcard, is it worth having your entire store shut down? Absolutely not. So please keep a lookout and read the policies on things that are insensitive that eBay does not want you to mess with. Here what you're looking at is a collection of arrowheads. These are authentic artifacts that at one time was made by a Native American human being that lived in what is now the continental United States. These were tools. They used these for hunting. They used these for cleaning their kill. They used these for a variety of purposes. These were their tools for survival. And it is incredible and amazing and a really neat piece of history to see that these things can have survived all this time on the ground. Really, really cool. These came from land that belonged to my family for multiples of generations. But you have to be careful if you want to try to sell things that are quote-unquote artifacts or are things that were made by indigenous populations. And there is a specific policy on things like artifacts, things that cover stuff like dinosaur bones, skeletons, and stuff made by men and women of yesteryear. If I wanted to say list this, and I wanted to say that these were original or authentic or Native American, I would have to have a way of proving a specific people group down to the specific tribe or even individual that made them. I have, in the past, and I'm talking years and years and years ago, sold a few artifacts, and they have updated their policy. So please take a look before you try to sell things like, little like bones, or things like dinosaur stuff, or things, prehistoric artifacts and items, or anything that's from a people group. You'll have to know and be able to prove where you got them from, because there's certainly illegal ways to obtain these. And there's certain, properties you are allowed to take these and others. But in a lot of cases, they say if you find something like this, just leave it where it lays. So anyhow, keep an eye out on that. I'm not going to tell you in this video what the specific policies say, because here's the deal. I could say it today, and if you watch this video tomorrow, eBay may have changed their policies. So all that to say, there are specific policies and there are guidelines. Please make sure that you check those out before you go trying to list something like this, because you never know if it might get you in trouble. Tobacco, books, ivory, alcohol, artifacts, fake items, embargoed items. Like if I wanted to sell a tin that used to hold cigars, but that was manufactured in Cuba, a country that we have an embargo on, there are policies that prohibit the sale of those items. Clothes, certain clothes can't be sold. You can't sell undergarments, folks. You can't sell underwear or used socks. Apparently bras are allowed. They aren't considered undergarments. Although I don't know what's under a bra, except for your bare skin. Now, I'm not a woman, so I don't know as a fact on that, but that's my guess. Weapons, brass knuckles, nightsticks, automatic knives you can't sell. And there are lots of other things. Remember those insensitive types of items. Anything Nazi Germany, there's a lot of restrictions on things that have to do with that. And yes, this is history. These are things, unfortunately, that did happen in the history books. But it doesn't mean you can sell a lot of those things if you're using certain platforms like eBay. So please check that stuff out. I hope it helped you today, folks. I hope you liked seeing some of that jewelry. Good luck out there hunting. And if you have other items, or maybe you had a story to share on something that you got dinged on, or if you have a cautionary tale as well, I'm sure our viewers would appreciate knowing that, so that we can all be doing our best to follow the rules while we're selling our items. You guys take care. Let's go find some treasures. Rusty, 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 how